Welcome back to Conspired, where skeptics and believers come together to discover the truth.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
See, that's how I like it to be.
Okay. Welcome back to Conspired, folks. We are at a total of 333 downloads on all listening resources. We also have some new Australian listeners. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, I did. I think we're up to 3 now. Yay!
I like it. I like that we're reaching
Yeah.
a worldwide audience. It's cool.
No, I do too. It's interesting.
Just to keep you guys updated, though, we are on iTunes Podcast, Overcast, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube. We are actually back on SoundCloud as well, so you can find that just by searching Conspired. You can also find and download whatever listening app you would like. Just search Conspired and you'll find us. But the good news is you obviously did find us because you are listening on one of these resources, which we so appreciate. The reason I list these is so that you can go ahead and share it with friends or family so we can gain more listeners and yeah. That's pretty much it.
More downloads.
More downloads, more subscribers.
More people, the better.
Absolutely. So in addition to subscribing to us on all of these listening channels, it would also be great if you could head over to Twitter,
Instagram,
Facebook, like and subscribe, follow us on there.
Leave some comments. I mean, I think we've had a few people leave comments, which I loved. You know, it really lets us know that you're listening and that you're enjoying it.
No, we've had a good many comments. We've had a good many comments, and we also have had a surplus of new followers this past week, which on all social media outlets, so that's great. So definitely, please, before you leave your listening source today, either go over to one of our social media platforms or subscribe where you're listening. It really just helps us promote this podcast and just helps our ratings to improve overall.
Yeah, and I really want to hear from more people. I mean, I'm on Twitter, a few times a day.
He controls the Twitter. Well, completely, solely.
You didn't feel I did that great with Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah, some of the pictures were weird. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. I had fun with it. This is the way I look at it.
So far, it seems like we're getting a lot of positive responses from our episode about Stephen Avery. Seems like it right now is the most popular. So we got a lot of true crime fans out there, so that's great. Yeah, and we'll definitely be doing more true crime in the future.
I look at it as this. I see it as the Mandela effect is... Well, no... I'm trying to think in my head how many downloads of each there were and when they were released. Because these were released a week apart. So yeah, you're right. That true crime episode did get us a lot of downloads.
And we will definitely have more true crime to come because that's one of my one true passions.
Yeah, that's very true.
But tell us, what's our episode going to be about today?
Today is going to be about Dear David. And I'm not sure how many of you know who Dear David is or what Dear David is
Just
about.
Just FYI, a lot of people on Reddit do not know about Dear David, which is surprising to me.
Well, I didn't know what Dear David was until you started reading to me about it.
I think I have this complex where I think that all these creepy things I know about, everyone knows about.
I think you do too.
I think I do because I'm like, how could you not know about this? And people are like, how do you know about this?
Same thing happened with the Black-Eyed Children. You were telling me about it, and I'm asking people at work.
Moral of the story is I'm weird, I guess.
Amen to that. All right, so Dear David. All right. I think you should explain it because you know more about it. I mean, I have read it, maybe not the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll give our listeners an overview. So, Dear David is basically a Twitter haunting sensation. And obviously it began on Twitter in about around August of 2017, so last year. And it is basically a ghost story, an ongoing ghost story that's been told by a man named Adam Ellis, and he's from New York. He began this sensation on Twitter by claiming that his apartment was being haunted by the ghost of a dead little boy.
Yes.
And the boy's little name was Dear David.
Which
I know what some of
somebody
you are
told
thinking
him.
are not David, but his name is actually Dear David. And I'll explain more of that as we go.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But before we get any further, I feel like we should at least talk about who Adam is. Because if you're anything like me and you've heard of this, you've blindly followed Adam Ellis, his story, without actually even knowing who he is as a person. And it actually, it explains a lot about this story, and it also kind of leads to more confusion about the story. So I'll tell you a few facts. Adam actually, like I said, he lives in New York. I believe he's in his 30s. You know, he's a good-looking guy. He wrote a book about his life adventures called The Books of Adam, The Wonder Years, in which he retold some of his crazy stories of life. So it's definitely worth saying that he is an author, a published author, and he can write well. And this book kind of just talks about some of the crazy things he's done in his life. He also had blog posts about this book before he actually wrote it. I guess this book was kind of a culmination of some of the blog posts that he had been writing, and he turned them into a book. But anyway, ever since this Dear David phenomenon got started, all those posts have been deleted since then. So I thought that was kind of weird. He is also, his main source of income is that he is a cartoonist, and some of his cartoons have been known to be rather dark, kind of like a dark sense of humor kind of thing, which I guess kind of goes into the theme of Dear David. He also worked for BuzzFeed. Now, I see there's a lot of misconceptions about this. He does not work for BuzzFeed anymore. He quit several months ago, and he was a very creative contributor to it during his time there. So he's shown his creativity in many ways through BuzzFeed. But through his Twitter account, he has posted several memes or tweeted certain things that may indicate that he has had a longing to be internet famous. But this could maybe be open to interpretation. But some people have said he's shared certain memes or tweeted certain things about how he wishes he was better known on Twitter. Or like that feeling you get when you get so many retweets or something like that. But again, that's open to interpretation. A few months ago, he announced that he was leaving BuzzFeed for unclear or very vague reasons, which some people could say is because of this whole thing going down. And then finally, his Twitter bio has been teasing for a book release coming soon, almost maybe halfway during his telling of this Dear David story. So just a few things I thought were interesting about him as a person that I feel like before we get started, it's important to know about him.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did you know any of those things?
Some of the things I knew. Like
I know
the whole BuzzFeed thing, I think I mentioned that in the last pod, or the last episode, that my theory, or some other people's theories actually, behind the whole Dear David thing is that since he does humor, that he could be trolling everybody.
Dark humor.
Especially dark humor, and he could be trolling people on Twitter with the whole David story.
So before we begin, basically the whole idea about this is that this story, most people, myself included, began this story with a full-fledged belief in it. But there are others that say this is an elaborate hoax, and this is why and how he's hoaxing us. But there are some aspects of this that have an element of truth that you just kind of can't ignore. So it's kind of one of those things, like all the things we talk about, that could be true, could be fake.
Or it's all just one big hoax that he's planned from the very beginning.
Could be. This is one I'll go ahead and tell you that I'm not set one way or the other about completely.
Of course we know I am.
As always. All right, so I figure let's just get into it. We'll tell our listeners the whole story, and we may end up dividing this podcast into 2 parts. We're not really certain about that right now because his tweets do expand from the time of August in 2017 all the way up until February 2018. they're threads, so they can be quite extensive, complete with videos and photos. And so we're going to kind of gauge how long we think this might take, and this might end up being our first two-parter.
And we understand that, this is a podcast, so we can't put pictures or videos up for you to see on here, but we can put them up on Facebook.
Yeah, and so you can go on Facebook and look at the photos and videos that we'll have that will go in coordinates with this podcast. But we'll also try to maybe share some of the audio of some of the videos that he has. Some of them are rather quiet, so we'll just kind of have to, judge that as we go.
Yeah, thanks. I forgot all about the audio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He has a lot of audio of his cats.
Yeah, and of him, sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some static stuff. I don't know. We'll talk about it. All right, so I guess at this point we should start segueing into the many, many tweets.
Yes.
We're going to kind of obviously read them and then stop and discuss how legit is this. And
yeah, that's the whole reason that we decided to most likely cut it up into different episodes.
Yeah. And I should preface by saying that there's a certain point where I'm a full-fledged believer, and I'll let you know where I started questioning my beliefs.
And I'll let you know up front that I thought it was all a hoax. And
now, you did agree with me. Sorry to interrupt you. Continue.
No. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, you did believe me when I showed you certain things about this. You were like, yeah, that could be. You did.
Well, no,
say
I
that.
was reading into his, what's that psychological thing that he says he has?
Sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. See, that's a real thing. And when you were telling me about this, I thought he was just like a paranoid, like he had psychological
Oh, yeah,
problems.
he thought he had schizophrenia or something.
Yeah,
You always
I
think
mean,
everyone
maybe
else
not schizophrenia, but I knew that I thought it was some kind of major anxiety issues, and it can cause hallucinations, delusions, things like that.
You think a lot of people have schizophrenia, though.
Especially you.
Yeah, I know. Could be true. You never know. All right, let's get into this. Okay, so I am looking at all the Dear David tweets, and I'm going to be reading them to you exactly as he wrote them, and we'll kind of stop and discuss. So his very first tweet was on Monday, August 7th, 2017, and Adam Ellis tweeted, "So my apartment is currently being haunted by the ghost of a dead child, and he's trying to kill me. Thread." You'll hear him say thread a lot of times, and that just means there's a string of tweets or a string of occurrences that he's documenting on one day in one tweet.
Okay, thank you, because I was wondering what thread meant. I'm
Yeah.
kind of new to Twitter.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the next one on that same day.
Wait, he says he's already trying to kill him. So, go on with this. I just want to see where this goes.
He started appearing in my dreams, but I think he's crossed over into the real world now. The first time I saw him, I was experiencing sleep paralysis and saw a child sitting in the green rocking chair at the foot of my bed. He had a huge misshapen head that was dented on one side. I did my best to draw it, and he attached a cartoon-looking picture of Dear David, kind of demented-looking and creepy. We'll attach it on Facebook, but I guess I will do them in the order that it goes in.
Yeah, I think that when you're listening to this podcast, you should go ahead and get on Facebook. Go to Conspired on Facebook.
You can follow
so
along
that
with
way,
us.
yeah, you can actually look at the pictures as we talk about it. Unless you're in your car, don't do that, because then you go driving off the road.
Stay safe, folks.
Yeah.
For a while, he just stared at me, but then he got out of the chair and started shambling toward the bed. I couldn't move because I was paralyzed. I have sleep paralysis fairly often. It sucks. Right before he reached my bed, I woke up screaming. I had another dream a few nights later where I was in a library, and a girl came up to me and said, "You've seen Dear David, haven't you?" I was like, "Who?" And she said, "Dear David, you saw him." She continued, "He's dead. He only appears at midnight, and you can ask him 2 questions if you say, 'Dear David,' first." Then she added, "But never try to ask him a 3rd question or he'll kill you." I was very shaken. Having 2 dreams about the same thing is pretty weird. Anyway, a couple of weeks passed without incident. Then David came back in another dream. Same situation. I was in bed and he was sitting in the rocking chair near the window, staring at me. In the dream, I say, "Dear David, how did you die?" He mumbles, "An accident in a store." I say, "Dear David, what happened in the store?" He groans, "A shelf was pushed on my head." I'm frozen with fear. I ask, Who pushed the shelf?" David doesn't answer. I realize that I've asked a third question, which I'm not supposed to do. At that point, I wake up, absolutely terrified. The next couple of days, I Google deaths in the city, but can't find anything about a kid named David dying in a store. I even tried different names: Daniel, Dylan, Devin, nothing. A few weeks go by without incident. Sort of randomly, the apartment above mine is vacated, and I have the opportunity to move into it. It's a larger apartment, so I'm thrilled. Another month or two goes by, and I sort of forget about Dear David. I think he lost track of me because I moved upstairs, but lately something strange has been happening. For the past 4 nights, my cats gather at the front door at exactly midnight and just stare, almost like something is on the other side. And with this tweet, he put a picture of his 2 cats at the door, kind of looking under the crack. The next tweet says, "When I opened the door and turned on the hall light, nothing was there, but my cats seemed unnerved, bushy tails, etc. And that's where I am right now. Dear David found me, I think. I don't know what to do. I'll keep you updated." Okay, so that was the end of that thread, of his first thread ever.
Okay, so that's a thread. He just wrote it all in one long... So that way...
Chunk.
Okay. See, it's starting to make sense now. I'm sorry, people. I'm not used to Twitter, and since we started this podcast, I'm getting used to it. My biggest question is, when you're reading that, is who is the girl that told him, like, you saw Dear David? He didn't elaborate on it.
I don't know, because she doesn't ever come up again in this whole
Doesn't that
saga.
seem kind of suspicious?
I don't know. I guess it's just, we just kind of have to think it's just like a dream he's having, and it's just a dream girl. I don't know.
Oh, is it a dream?
I think your thing is, you're not thinking of this as real. You're thinking of this as a story. So you're thinking, when does the girl come back in the story?
Well, no. He just says a girl comes up to him. This is not a dream he's having.
Yes, it is a dream.
It is?
Yes. He's in a library. He's dreaming, and a girl comes up to him and says, "You've met Dear David." Yeah, it was
Maybe
a dream.
I read it wrong. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm just looking through this. I had another dream a few nights later. I was in the library. Yes. Okay. Thank you. It's all starting to make sense now.
All right. So I guess let's go on to the next thread. Next is Wednesday, August 9th, 2017. Adam attaches a picture of his clock saying midnight, and in the background is a picture of one of his cats at the door. Update. For the 6th night in a row, my cat has walked over to the door promptly at midnight and stared at it. What is going on? And then he attached a video of his cat at the door, presumably crying. You can kind of hear it.
Yeah, it's a cat crying.
Okay. But the cat is at his door.
Yeah. The cat's at the door crying.
I don't know.
If you have a cat that goes to your door and cries, please comment.
Every night at midnight.
Yes.
Every night at midnight.
Well, you got to see that he's holding a clock in the picture, showing a picture of his cat. A little bit after 12, he posts a tweet at 12:09. How hard is it to set your clock for that time, take the picture, and then post it?
Definitely possible. Okay, next tweet. Okay, so I took a photo through the peephole because I'm too scared to open the door. I feel like I saw something. This is the door out to his apartment hallway.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell, so I mustered the courage to open the door. Nothing was out there, but I took another photo. Look at this. And he took a picture through the peephole of the hallway. Nothing's in the hallway, but in the peephole, it looks like there's like a misty kind of something. And this tweet with the picture says, "Is it just me, or is there something in the first photo right where the banister meets the shelves, hiding on the stairs?" And it does.
I don't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, if I really strain, I can see something, but initially, I don't either.
Yeah, we talked about priming in the last episode, and if you tell somebody what they're looking for, usually
They'll
find
find
it.
something.
Yeah.
So Adam goes on to say, I wasn't sure if it was a smudge or something, so I took a second photo from inside. There was something out there. I deadbolted the lock and got in bed because I didn't know what else to do. I could still hear my cat meowing at the door. And then he said, I am pretty scared, and attached a picture of his cat still at the door with glowing eyes. Perfect.
Yes, that's very scary.
Thursday, August 10th, 2017. It's been pretty quiet tonight. I'm going to try out a sleep talk app to see if anything happens during the night. And he attaches a picture of himself with his cats at the door at midnight and says, I'm heading to bed, but the cats are back at the door. They only do this in the middle of the night. It's routine now. The next night. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, he could just take some food, put it outside the door, close it, and then take a selfie of himself with his cats waiting for the door to open and get the food.
I'm not saying this is not an impossible thing to happen, but at the time when I was reading this, to me it seemed very strange.
Yeah.
And to a lot of others as well. By this point, his Twitter feed concerning Dear David is gaining notoriety and followers, and people are like scared for his life.
Oh, believe me, I was reading the tweets, and there was like 10,000 tweets just on one of his posts.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the next night, and here we go, just minutes before midnight, and this is another video of his cat at the door. And it's midnight.
Give me some food.
Give me the food outside the door.
Yeah.
And then he posted another picture of both of his cats. They're both there now. And then he also posted a picture of him putting salt outside the door. And he says, I don't even know if this is the right kind of salt. So he's like saging his apartment.
He used sea salt instead of regular.
And then his cat's name is Maxwell. And he says, Maxwell is extra talkative tonight. He's obviously trying to tell me something.
I feel like I'm watching like Supernatural on Twitter.
Friday, August 11th, 2017. I used a sound app to record my apartment last night. It makes individual recordings each time it hears something. There were 33 recordings. Most of them are pretty vague. A couple of them are passing cars and the like. But there are 3 that I'm interested in. The first is a snapping sound and what seems like a single step. It's odd because I didn't get out of bed all night. This one is, and then he attaches a sound cloud of the cars and snapping sound. And then he posts another tweet that says, this one is weird because I'm out of 33 recordings. This is the only one that has a strange electric sound throughout. And the next tweet says, this directly follows the electric static, another snap, and then I groaned in my sleep. And I'm not going to play those just because even if you hear those like right by your ear, which you guys wouldn't because this is off of a computer, they're very difficult to hear.
Well, that's why, we'll put it on Facebook. That way they can listen to it. Or, they can Google it themselves.
Sure. And it's not, it's nothing astonishing. It's exactly what he says. A very vague electrical sound.
Yes.
These happen between 2 and 3 a.m. I have no explanation for them. I'll keep recording and share if I find anything curious. Saturday, August 12th, 2017. Adam posted a selfie of him with his apartment in the background, and he said, getting the F out of my haunted apartment for the weekend. And then his next tweet is a picture, and he says, I have no explanation for this. And the picture is of, I guess, a Twitter follower saw something in the back of his selfie, and it appears to be a picture of a boy with a dented head. Which, I can't see this, but like you were saying, if I'm looking for it,
I'm just trying not to laugh.
So.
The picture is just a big fuzzy picture. You'll see it on Facebook. If you didn't know what the story was about, you'd just be like, why'd you take a dark picture in your room?
So the next string of tweets is what really got me when I initially was reading all this. So he says, so a weird thing just happened. Take it with a grain of salt. And he has a picture of a Polaroid camera. I bought a Polaroid camera this weekend because they're fun and dorky. I decided to take a few photos around my apartment. Polaroids are stupid and fun, and inherently sort of creepy. I didn't expect to find anything, and for the most part I didn't.
I'm sorry, but that's just funny. He's like, I just bought a Polaroid, you know, because it's stupid and funny, so...
His next tweet says, I took a couple of my living room and my bedroom. That's the rocking chair I first saw David in. They're pretty unremarkable. And he attaches a picture of various places is in his apartment with his Polaroid camera. Then I went into the hallway and snapped a photo. This would be the hallway that goes out into his apartment hallway. Right. And the Polaroid developed completely black. And he showed that. I even ripped open and destroyed a fresh pack to see if it was just an undeveloped Polaroid, but they all start out white. And he posted a picture to show this. I also thought maybe I accidentally covered the lens with my finger, so I took a photo while intentionally covering it. And the photo on the left, he posts 2 pictures. And he says, the photo on the left is me covering the lens with my finger. The photo on the right is my fully lit hallway just taken after midnight. And one is completely dark, and the one where he covered it is like kind of dark.
Yeah, and my theory behind this is that the one on the left that's kind of fuzzy is probably his thumb over the lens. But the one on the right, he just took one and exposed it. Like, opened the package up, exposed it. Yes, they do turn it. They are white when you first open it up.
Oh, really?
But as soon as the light hits it, they're going to turn black.
Yeah, because that was really weird. He said, so this could be nothing. I'm not sure what to make of it. And then he said, one last thing, because I wanted to do a double check. Here's a couple videos of me taking photos, because a lot of people said, prove it. Show us yourself doing it. And so he had attached a video of him doing it.
Okay, here's my living room.
And that's him taking a picture of his living room with his Polaroid.
I'll leave that there.
And he's letting that one develop. The next video is him
If you're
taking
on
a picture
Facebook
of the hallway.
watching this.
See if that loads.
Okay, now I'm gonna take a photo of the hallway just
So
to
he's
show
unlocking
you
all the logs.
Yeah, on his apartment door to the hallway.
what that's like.
Obviously, you hear him snap the picture.
And as you can see, the first one has already developed.
The first one's normal.
So let's see what this one does.
You gotta shake it like a Polaroid picture, buddy.
So he's still waiting on the second one of his hallway to develop.
Which usually they don't take that long to develop unless these new Polaroids are just different than the old ones. Which, did you see the Polaroid picture actually left the frame? So he could have switched it out. It's just a theory.
Black.
Yeah, he could have done that. He could have had one.
He could have,
that
because
was
right
just-
now he's still holding it in front of the camera. We're watching it develop black before our eyes right now.
Right, so he could have just had one that was covered and then
So, I don't know.
grabbed it, pulled it into view, and
Potentially.
it was exposed.
But when I saw that, I was pretty much like, okay, I mean, this is evidence right here. Like, I mean, to me.
I always use the scientific theory, just look at it and...
And then he, the next tweet is a picture of the fully black Polaroid. He said it came out totally black again for a second time. Honestly, I don't know why I'm still messing around with this camera. There
didn't
might
say
be a
messing.
logical explanation. Right, but I'm not going to say that word. Someone told me to take my photos from farther away, so I tried that. Once with my iPhone and once with the Polaroid. So he attaches a picture and says, the left one is with my iPhone. The right one is with my Polaroid. The hall light was on both times. And on the left picture that he took with his iPhone, you can see the hallway completely lit. And then on the right one with his Polaroid, you can see his apartment, but the hallway in the apartment is still completely black. And he says, why is it pitch black each time only with the Polaroid?
Do you think that iPhone is just better than Polaroid?
Obviously. This whole thread has been really convoluted, and I'm sorry if it's hard to follow. I just thought it was weird and wanted to share. The next day, his tweet. He attaches a picture of him saging his apartment and
I'm
says,
sorry,
folks
I
have
don't
been
know
urging
why.
me to get some sage, so
Yeah,
I
dude.
did. And then it shows his more saging the hall, and definitely saging the H out of this rocking chair. And that's where he saw David the first time.
What's funny is that he really gets into this. It's not like he tweets, "Hey, I just saged my apartment just to be on the safe side." No, he's showing pictures of himself in different rooms
Right,
saging
but
his
I
apartment.
think,
I want to prove to you
in
guys.
his defense, I think, like, if this is really happening to him and he sees that it's getting, like, some notoriety, he's probably like, well, at least I have people listening to me. I'll give them a little more so they can actually feel like they see what I'm going through.
No, I love that he's doing it because
I'm saying
he's a great storyteller.
with the perception that he's telling the truth. Like, if this were happening to me and I was telling the truth, I don't see why I wouldn't do that too.
I don't know. If I was that scared, I wouldn't think of doing that. I would be like, well, I mean,
If you had a Twitter following, though.
yeah, I guess if you have a Twitter following and you really love that, there's that
And
many
last
people.
time, only good things came from him showing pictures, because he took a picture of himself and then one of his Twitter followers pointed out that thing that was in the background of his picture. So maybe he feels like, if I keep documenting this, maybe people can help me with this.
Okay,
Just
I can
a
see
thought.
that. Yeah.
And he goes on to say, honestly, sage doesn't seem like it'll help much, but I'm open to anything. I barely slept last night. If this were me, I would not be sleeping at all.
Yeah, I know.
I kept waking up feeling like something was wrong. But who knows? Maybe this will do something. The morning after. Sage did not work.
He only gave it a day.
Well,
Sage takes at least a week. Everybody
he goes
knows
on to
that.
say, I haven't dreamed about David in a few months, but he appeared again last night. In the dream, my bedroom was filled with hazy smoke, but I could see David sitting in the chair across the room. He was smaller this time, almost shrunken. He didn't do or say anything except look at me. Anyway, it feels like a bad omen. Friday, August 18th, 2017. He attaches a picture of his 2 cats. It's been 2 weeks, and he still does this every night at midnight. And it's a picture of one of his cats at his door at midnight.
Still waiting on his food outside that door.
Other weird stuff has been happening too. I've been recording myself sleeping, and it picks up this weird static electricity sound every night at 3 a.m. It lasts about 5 minutes. This morning, I woke up to the whole house shaking. It felt like a small earthquake. I debated even mentioning that on Twitter because it sounds made up, but I distinctly felt the house swaying.
Vertigo.
It's just a whole bunch of small things happening at once. I feel so uneasy, like right before a thunderstorm comes. Everyone is telling me to move, but I don't have any guarantee that this won't follow me. The next night. They just issued a thunderstorm warning for tonight, and he took a picture of a warning on his phone. Everyone in the city is talking about how weird the sky looks. I can hear rolling thunder in the distance.
He even uses the weather to try to draw people in. Look at these clouds.
Monday, August 21st, 2017. Oh, and by the way, it's also important to mention that these are just his Dear David tweets, but as this is going on, he's not just tweeting about Dear David. I mean, he's still tweeting about other things. So that was another reason I felt like maybe this could have some element of truth, because it's not like he's like, oh, I made up this ghost story and now I'm just going to tweet about that. He still was tweeting about other things.
You saw it as not just constantly hearing about this and that he was living a normal life. This was just something that was going on.
Something that was happening to him. Yeah.
Okay.
All this ghost stuff has been spooky, but this past weekend was the first time I actually felt unsafe in my home. Thread. And now you know what it means.
Yes.
On Friday night, there was supposed to be a huge storm. In the end, it passed, but the night was bizarre anyway. I fell asleep pretty early. I was incredibly tired for some reason. I had a dream that night where David was dragging me by the arm through an old abandoned warehouse. I'm not sure why I didn't fight back in the dream or how he was strong enough to pull me, but that's dream logic for you. It was a creepy dream, but I didn't think much of it when I woke up. I took a shower and then I noticed something. And he posts a picture of his arm, and his arm has kind of a bruise on his kind of between his wrist and his forearm.
Oh.
Yeah. But, I mean, you can see it. You can clearly see it.
Oh, yes. I definitely
It's kind of
see
bluish, sort of.
Yeah, like a purple.
I'd woken up with a huge bruise on my arm. Now look, maybe I injured myself the day before, and my arm was hurting during the night, which manifested itself as a dream. There could be a totally logical explanation for it, so I brushed it off. I went to get coffee, which I do every weekend. When I walk to the coffee place I always pass a food cart repair depot. It's always incredibly busy, especially on the weekends. I've lived in the neighborhood for over 4 years, and the place has always been jam-packed with carts getting serviced. And he attaches a picture of what looks to be the old food cart depot repair place, except it's completely abandoned. And his tweet says, "But today, it was completely abandoned. The whole warehouse was totally gutted and empty." Well, almost empty. I went inside to look around because I was astonished that this place was suddenly empty after all these years. Basically, the only thing in the entire warehouse was a single green chair. And he takes a picture of the chair that's in the warehouse. Now, to me, that freaked me out.
I thought it was black at first, but one of the, what do you call them, Twitters, Twitties, whatever they're called, they took the picture and enhanced the lighting, and you could see that it is green.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that looks black.
Well, because, I mean, I don't know. When I saw this, I was like, okay, that is really random and very weird.
Okay, I had two thoughts. One was either he's seen this place before and he had a dream about it, and there is such thing as, like, you could self-mutilate in your sleep, especially if you have sleep paralysis or different kind of sleep disorders. You could hurt yourself. So that was one theory. The other theory is, that if he's making the story up, then he bruised himself and he already knew this warehouse was here. Probably took the picture before he even wrote the story. Well, obviously he did. But you see what I'm saying? Like, there's three ways it could go. It's either real, he is so paranoid that this primed him to have a dream about this warehouse, and he just forgot about the warehouse until he walked past it, or he's making up the story and he's using this as part of it.
To me, it was pretty convincing. I mean, of course, the Polaroid was the seller for me when I was reading it in real time.
Oh yeah, I remember. We were in the car.
I was
you were
totally
trying to show me
freaked.
while I was driving.
And then the warehouse, I thought, this is very odd and random. And because it was so odd and random, like, I felt like if he was making it up, he would probably just, like, start, I don't know, having David, like, come to him in his dreams more often or something like that. Something very Scary Story-esque. But a green chair in an abandoned warehouse, I was like, that's really random and really weird. And to me, believable. And so it freaked me out.
Yeah, but you don't think he's making, like, connections? Green chair, didn't he
talk? No, for sure. I think it was just an ironic coincidence, but it still gave me chills because I didn't think that there was any malice behind it. I think it just happened to be a creepy coincidence. But it was still weird.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he made it up, is what I'm saying.
And I think I read some tweets where people were saying, look, you can see in the picture that there's the figure of David in the background or something like that.
Those are people reaching, I think.
That's what I'm saying. You look at a picture and if you're looking for something, you're going to find it.
But for me, I didn't look any more into it other than that, okay, it's abandoned, there's a chair. That's a weird coincidence. Yeah. That's kind of all I saw with it.
Yeah. I mean, the rocking chair in his apartment.
Yay for me for being logical.
Yes. High five on that one. Yes. All right.
Okay. And he goes on to say, if you recall, David first appeared in my green rocking chair. It could be nothing, but it's weird that it was the only thing left behind. On my way back from the coffee shop, the warehouse had been shuttered. It's remained shuttered ever since. That was really kind of weird to me, too. So the warehouse, on his way to coffee, was open, and then on his way back, it was completely closed. And he attached
I just saw it as they cleaned it out and closed it up for good.
Weird that it was in that time range, though. And it hasn't opened at all again.
Coincidence.
I guess. I don't know. The chair, my bruise, dreaming about an empty warehouse, and then passing by one, it gave me the creeps. Needless to say, I didn't sleep much that night. Too many strange things are happening, and more frequently. So, I don't know. Anyway, it was a strange weekend. Friday, August 25th, 2017. There have been a few small developments in my apartment, but I'm not really sure what to make of them. I just know I'm scared. Thread. If you recall, my cats usually gather at the door at midnight, but lately it's been getting earlier and earlier every night. I was almost used to routines, so when they started to cry at the door closer to 10 p.m., I was confused. They began a new routine where they hover at the door at 10 p.m., cry for about 15 minutes, then wander off as if nothing's wrong. But this week, something else has been happening. Shortly after the usual cat stuff, around 10:30 or so, I start getting phone calls from an unmarked number. This part, I think, is one of the top 3 things that scared me the most about this.
Why? I mean,
I'll tell you.
All right, well, let me just say this real quick. He has a picture of no caller ID on here. So star 67, he had another phone and called his phone, and he answered it once. That's how I see this.
So what happened is he attaches a picture, and basically it's a screenshot of his iPhone where it says no caller ID, and it's a bunch of missed calls from Wednesday all the way up until Thursday, and he answered it one time on Thursday. And his tweet says, "My entire call history for the past week looks like this. You'll notice that I answered once yesterday." Since this has been happening for days on end, I thought it might be an automated telemarketer or something. Usually if it's an automated thing, if you answer once, they quit calling, so I picked up. Instead, what I heard on the other end was a peculiar electric static sound, very similar to the static my sleep app picks up at night. I didn't say anything, I just listened, waiting for some automated message to chime in. After about a minute, the static stopped, and there was silence. I kept listening. I heard what I thought was breathing, but it was so faint I can't be sure. My heart was racing, so it was hard to hear. Then, just as I was about to hang up, I heard a very small voice whisper, "Hello." Something about the way they said hello freaked me out. It wasn't a question or a greeting. Just hello, a flat statement. So quiet I could barely hear it. I panicked and hung up. I didn't know what else to do. I closed all the curtains in my apartment and turned on every single light. I watched TV until dawn because I was too scared to go to sleep. I sort of feel like I'm losing my mind. If I look at each individual incident on its own, there are perfectly logical explanations for everything. But after 3 weeks of weird crap happening, I don't know how to make sense of it all. The only thing I feel like I can do right now is write everything down, so that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'll keep doing.
Okay, so I want to go back to the phone thing. I think somebody should have said, all right, call your phone carrier for that week and, get the record, get the whatever it shows, because you could do that. I mean, cops do it all the time. They find out your phone records. Whether somebody stars 67, we talked about that in the Stephen Avery case. You should check out that episode. But if somebody would ask that and he couldn't show it, then, that would kind of prove it.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would. Maybe I should ask him.
I don't know. To me, that part always gave me chills. Something about phones and, paranormal things.
Movies.
I don't know.
Always. It's
yeah,
connection.
They do.
I see that in movies
I didn't
all the
think
time.
about that.
And you just connect it. He knows what
I should say, here's why I'm not defending this that much. I keep using past tense as this part scared me when I first read this, is because as the story has gone on, and as you'll see, certain things begin happening that have caused it to lose my 100% belief, I guess.
You lost your confidence too.
I lost my confidence in it, and it's not the same as cases like the Black Eyed Children and Mandela Effect, where I believe in those things more because A, either I've experienced them myself, or B, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have experienced this, whereas this is just one guy. And granted, hundreds and hundreds of people believe him.
Yeah.
But
more than hundreds.
But
I've
this
read
is
thousands of tweets.
But this is just one guy, and we're having to take his word. Now, he has, quote, evidence, but,
More evidence than the Mandela Effect, or...
No, not more evidence than the Mandela Effect.
Or Black Eyed Children. I mean, the one guy had a video of a girl standing outside of his patio door.
Stop living in the past. We're in this podcast. All right, Monday, August 28, 2017. He has a picture of his green rocking chair. So I moved the green chair out of the bedroom weeks ago. It's been in various parts of the living room ever since. Thread. I should probably get rid of it, but I'm not sure that would have any effect. Also, I'm going on vacation to Japan in 3 weeks, and I keep thinking that if I can make it to my trip, this will all end, as dumb as that sounds. David lost track of me once when I moved, so maybe if he believes I've left the apartment again, he'll leave me alone. Anyway, last week I bought a pet monitoring camera, so I can keep an eye on the cats while I'm overseas. It's basically a nanny cam that connects to the Wi-Fi so you can check in whenever you want. It runs 24/7. And he posts a picture of the cam. It also alerts you to sound and movement via an app. I blacked out the company since I doubt they want to be associated with ghosts. In any event, I decided to test it out this weekend. I was away from home one night, so I set up the camera before I left. My phone pinged periodically throughout the evening, alerting me to the cats running around and playing normal stuff. Then, around 11, it alerted me again that it detected motion, but when I checked the feed of my apartment, I didn't see anything. So I watched the feed again. Still nothing. I watched it a third time and finally noticed something. Watched the chair. And he attaches a video, and at first nothing's happening, and then the green chair starts to kind of rock by itself. Yeah. And then he says, I knew it couldn't be the wind because I haven't had the windows open at all this summer. I have AC and like to keep it chilly. It was unnerving, but there wasn't anything I could do about it right then, so I flipped my phone off and tried not to panic. About half an hour later, I got another motion alert. Here's the feed of that alert. And he posts a picture, and in this video, he has like a turtle shell thing hanging on the wall. And after a few seconds, you can see the turtle shell just falls off the wall. So, kind of random. And he says, if you missed it the first time like me, look above the shelf. It's the little turtle shell that I hung on the wall. Yes, I know it's weird to own a turtle shell, but my family lives in Montana, and I picked it up last year at a native trading post.
I was just wondering what a turtle shell has to do with native trading posts.
Who knows? Since I've been back home, I've been too nervous to turn the camera back on, and today has been pretty quiet. That said, I feel very uneasy. I put the chair in the hall. I hope nothing else happens tonight.
Yeah, so the chair rocking, I know how to make it stop. If he would just stop pulling on that string that rocks the chair, it would actually stop rocking.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's... Yeah.
You've seen illusionists. What is that? I'm trying to think of that really famous illusionist.
Harry Houdini? David Chris? What's his name? Chris Angel.
Chris Angel. That's it. He does things that would make me think that he's a demon.
Oh, yeah. But he's all fake, too.
Yeah, I mean, but it's great. And so this is just simple things.
What you're saying is, that's not to say that this guy, Adam Ellis, couldn't be pulling that off, too. Plus, not to mention, he has a way of... We only see this little clip of video. We don't know what's going on in the background. He could have, 5 people in the background helping him with all this.
Well, I thought about that, and I was thinking, the more people that knew that this was a hoax, if it is a hoax, the harder it would be to keep a secret. You know, could you imagine, they're in the thousands, tens of thousands of people that believe this, and if you told too many people, then that's why on certain conspiracies, I'm just like, if there's too many people that know about it, it's too hard to keep a secret, and that's why it's hard for me to believe that.
Now, that's not to say that this video couldn't be real, because, I mean, I have seen paranormal videos where there is zero explanation for something, personal ones, not even famous ones, people I know have showed me, and they're like, I swear, I've seen things move on their own, so it's, to me, I know not to you, but to me, it is a probable thing that could happen, so... I don't know. Yeah, see,
I just always try to figure out what could have been,
And I guess just I'm more on your side on this one because it's just as this has gone on, and I'll tell you when we get to the point, but as this has gone on, I've just lost.
You lost your confidence.
I'm not that convinced
before,
anymore.
believe me, listen, whenever
I was so afraid of this.
Oh my gosh, she would be like, oh my gosh, look what happened. I'm so afraid for him, and I'm just like, she is freaked out, and I'm like, it's okay. I don't think it's
I was one of those people commenting on it.
Yeah, well, yeah,
stay
she probably
safe,
would.
Adam.
Yeah. Posting the or not the memes, but the little gifs of people going, oh no.
I know, because it really was.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
But we can still look at this through the lens of it potentially being true as well. Even though...
For your sake, I'm going to, but...
Well, it's not for my sake, it's for the listener's sake.
For the listener's
so they can make their own decision.
Yeah, they can make their own decision, but you know what my decision.
Okay, Tuesday, September 5th, 2017. It's happening again, threat. I've been leaving the nanny cam on 24/7. It records every time there's movement or sound, as you know. I was going over the feed from this weekend and noticed some weird stuff. During the night on Saturday while I slept, it recorded the cats in the living room. It seemed pretty unremarkable at first. And then he posts a video. But then, after a few moments, Maxwell freaks out and jumps over something invisible. I'm not going to play this one because there's not a lot of sound. Basically, his cat jumps over something in midair.
Yeah, I think we should just explain it, and they can just go to the Facebook page if they want to watch the video.
Basically, his cat, it's a video of his cat, and his cat's just kind of like standing there, and then all of a sudden jumps over something, but there's nothing there for him to jump over. And so I guess the idea there is, what is that? What is he jumping over?
Yeah, like me automatically thought he took
I don't know how he would hoax that one.
He would take his dental floss from his bathroom, tie it to something over there, and then just move it real quick.
You thought of that like today, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just looking at these things and figuring out how I would prank somebody.
Yeah. All right, he goes on to say, I don't think it was a bug or anything. Maxwell doesn't react like that with bugs. He just eats them. Something spooked him. What's more, I almost never get bugs. I've seen maybe 3 in all the years I've lived here. Anyway, the next night...
He lives in New York and never gets bugs.
In his apartment. Anyway, the next night, the camera recorded a couple more strange videos. Okay, this one is definitely odd, and granted, he could be doing something to manipulate this, but I thought it was weird. And he attaches a video, and he says, specifically, it recorded Maxwell doing this on and off for hours. And it's a video of his cat pawing and trying to hit something that's in midair, and he's like on his hind legs.
All right, so have you ever seen the cats? You have like the pole with the string, and it's got a little fuzzy ball on it. If you dangle it above them, they'll set up on their hind legs, and that's my thoughts on that one.
Yeah. He'd sit up on his hind legs and peer around the room as if he was looking for something or looking at something. This is odd behavior for him, and I can't come up with an explanation for it, especially because of the next video. Okay, and then there's the video he recorded of Maxwell pawing at the air. And it is just kind of... I'm just watching it, and...
Yeah, there's
here's
only
the thing.
So many feet
he is pawing... I'm looking at it right now. He's not pawing up. So, like, if someone was holding something above for him to paw, he's not looking up. He's looking right in front of him, and there's nothing in front of him.
Right. But you ever seen the magicians where they take their hands and they put an object between them, and it looks like it's floating between their hands?
But look, you see this?
No, I see it. What I'm trying to say is you ever seen the magicians do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they use a piece of really small string, and they paint it black so that you cannot see, or I think it's painted black. It depends on what the background is. But or it's see-through or something like that, and that object is attached to it. So if you dangle something like that in front of a cat, the cat has very good vision. It's going to see it, and it's going to paw at it.
Sure. I guess what I'm wondering is, though, you can't... Animals are animals, and they're going to react to... You can't... Especially cats. You can't train them to do certain things. Like, maybe you could train a dog to...
You can train cats.
I don't know. I just think that this cat... Regardless of if this is true or not, the cat was behaving in a very peculiar way in those videos.
I agree with that, but you also have to think that... He has as much time as he wants to record this because...
You're saying he doesn't have a job?
Well,
he's a cartoonist.
Yeah, he doesn't. He quit BuzzFeed.
At this time, he's working for BuzzFeed. At this time.
Oh, at this time.
At this time,
okay,
he is. Yes.
See, I don't know the time.
And he's
frames.
a cartoonist, so.
But.
I think he would take offense to that.
Yeah, he probably would. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to judge you like that. But he could record as much as he wants, and as soon as he finds something that looks even a little bit mysterious, you know how cats do weird things. I've seen cat videos where they'll just run across the floor and bang into the wall.
Yeah, I told you one time about the cat at my parents' house staring and hissing at something in the hallway that wasn't there.
Yeah, now, but to you it wasn't there.
Some people do say that animals
can see paranormal things.
Can see things that we can't. Yeah. Just like they can hear frequencies we can't, they can also see things that we can't.
Well, if that were true, I guess animals see in certain spectrums of light, and maybe we should get one of the whatever that animal sees in, and then you just watch through that, and you'll be able to see everything they see.
Maybe so. All right, he goes on to say, I suppose there's a chance it was a fly, but I honestly never get flies, so that seems unlikely. I just can't shake the feeling that something has made its way into the apartment. It's odd behavior from Maxwell, in any event. Things felt off this week. I can't explain it. September 16th, 2017. I've been having so many nightmares lately. Thread. They're way more intense than my usual dreams, too. I don't know if it's because I'm stressed or if it's something else. This afternoon, I took a nap, and I had a dream I haven't been able to shake. In the dream, I was laying in bed and rolled over to face the other direction. On the pillow next to me was a severed head with a bloody spine attached, snaking down the bed. This head was staring right at me, somehow still alive. It had this huge smile plastered on its face. Horrified, I screamed, "What happened to you?" The head smiled even bigger.
"It feels great."
The head groaned. Oh, that's creepy. After that, I woke up. It was dark outside by then. Everything was quiet. Other dreams have been just as strange. Things like dark figures staring in my windows, even though I live on the second floor. Stuff like that makes no sense in relation to what I've been experiencing in real life. After that dream about the head, I've been feeling uneasy all night. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided to go for a walk, if for no other reason than to get out of my apartment. I went to a bodega? A bodega a few blocks away to get a snack. On the way, I had to pass the warehouse that was boarded up a few weeks ago. It's actually on the way to everything. I pass it twice a day just to get to the subway. I hurried past it since it freaks me out now. Same. That would be me. At the bodega, I got some Doritos and a seltzer, and then made my way back home. When I passed the warehouse a second time, I heard a dull thunk from the other side of the shutters. I froze in place, but there was no other sound after that. I probably should have just continued on, but curiosity got the best of me. There was a grated window next to the doors, about a foot above my head, too high to see into. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to hold my phone up to the window, take one photo, and then run for my life. Why does he have to take a photo? Oh gosh, I lost my place.
That's what makes me think this story is just a story, because he's constantly like, oh, and so I put my phone up to the peephole and took a picture, or, oh, I was so scared I hid behind the counter and took a picture. But one other thing I wanted to go back to while you were looking for your place is that the dream he had of the severed head. You know how I said one of the possibilities is that he's just he's anxious, his anxiety level's too high, and he could be having what I have is night terrors, and my night terrors get very graphic.
I was thinking about you when he said that.
Yeah, so these things, and I'm not going to get into my night terrors because we're saving that for
personal story.
Yes, personal story episodes. But that is a possibility. And, it could be just telling a great story, or he could be having night terrors.
Could be. He goes on to say, I made sure my flash was on, positioned, my camera lens through one of the grates, and snapped a photo. I almost thought I saw movement when the flash went off, but I couldn't be certain. The light bounced off the grates and was pretty blinding. I couldn't even look at the photo. I just ran all the way home. I was too jumpy to look at it for a while. I just ate my Doritos nervously. When I finally did look at the photo, here's what I saw. It seemed to be a different part of the warehouse, maybe an office. And he posts the picture and he says, there was a bunch of old insulation and what looks like a filing cabinet and a ripped up leather desk chair. And in the picture, that's exactly what it is. Then I noticed something else in the upper right corner, something that looked like a face. The more I stared at it, the more it started to look like a nondescript blur. Now I can't even be sure of what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm too deep into this, and my brain wants to see David when he's not there. But here, I messed with the filters on my phone a bit. Tell me this doesn't look like him. And then he posts a picture of the top right corner, and of course we see sort of...
Yeah, if you're told to see something,
David.
I can even see it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Friday, September 22nd, 2017. The past few days have been fairly quiet. I haven't been spending much time at home. I leave for Japan in a couple hours. I've been trying to avoid anything weird before my trip. I still feel like this all might stop if I just leave for a couple weeks. Whatever happens, I want to thank everyone for their kind thoughts and concerns. This whole ordeal has been stressful and it means a lot. It makes me feel like I'm not going through this alone. See you in a couple weeks. Friday, September 29th, 2017. I bought you'll have to help me here. A votive
tablet.
A votive tablet at the shrine I'm at in Japan. And he posts a picture and it says, please protect my cats while I'm away from home. with some Japanese writing. Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. It's my last full day in Japan.
I'm just
Thread.
kind of wondering what a votive tablet was.
I'll keep going.
You keep going.
While
I'm
you
gonna
look
find
that
out.
up. The past couple weeks have been pretty peaceful. I have people taking care of the cats, and they say they've been doing fine. This morning, I went for a long walk around Sapporo. I never really plan my vacations. I like to wander around a lot and see what I find. I came across this statue in a park. I couldn't find out any real information about it online, but it was weird and pretty, and he posted a picture of this statue from Japan. I was taking pictures of it from different angles since it's cylindrical. I moved around to one side and almost dropped my phone at what I saw. It felt too similar to be a coincidence. I felt dizzy staring up at it. This kid with a dented head. And he zoomed in on a picture of the statue, and it's a picture of this dented head child in Japan and the statue, which resembles David. I don't know. And he says, I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this is nothing. It doesn't feel like nothing. Anyway, I have to pack for my flight home in the morning. It'll be good to see the cats again, at least.
The statue, it does show the kid. It kind of looks like it's not dented in enough as what he was showing in the beginning, but he could either A, have already seen this, knew it was there, went, took a picture, or just took the picture offline, or he saw this statue and automatically associated it with, with the child.
Yeah.
But the votive tablet was some kind of vow, like, to take care of my cat, offered, given, undertaken, performed, or dedicated in fulfillment or in accordance with a vow. So,
okay. Thursday, October 5th, 2017. He has a selfie with his cat. I made it home safely. The cats are fine, if a little more talkative than usual. Sunday, October 14th, 2017. Weird things have been happening with the electricity in my apartment this week. Thread. First, 2 bulbs have burned out in the hallway in less than a week. At this point, I've just left it alone rather than get a ladder again. But the strangest thing that has to do with the backlight on my TV. It's an LED strip that plugs into the TV itself via USB. The TV has to be on in order for the backlight to be on, but last night the backlight was flickering on and off by itself. I noticed it just some time before dawn when I woke up and went into the kitchen to get some water. I'd barely gotten back into bed again when I saw a faint light come on in the living room. After a few seconds, it went dark again. I went back into the living room and stood there watching the backlight go on and off, for at least a few minutes. It was bizarre. Eventually it stopped, and now the backlight doesn't work at all. It's only a couple of months old, so it shouldn't be dead already. Anyway, I couldn't get back to sleep, so I went to the diner near my apartment. It was the only thing open at 4 a.m. And he posted a picture of his food. He had eggs over easy.
Yeah, eggs over easy with some ham and hash browns.
When I got back home, the sun was starting to come up, so I figured I might as well shower and get into work early. See, he does go to work. I showered and brushed my teeth, then headed into the bedroom to get dressed. As I passed the front door, I thought I heard a faint scratching sound from the other side. It was so soft I wasn't sure that it had really happened. I went over to the door, but I was too scared to look through the peephole. I couldn't bring myself to actually put my face that close to the sound, so I opted to take a photo through the peephole instead. Since there's a skylight just outside my door, the hall was awash in a faint yellow-green light. I snapped a couple photos. At first, the pictures didn't seem like anything, just blurry nothingness. But as I analyzed it and started noticing things, part of a face, an ear, and an eye staring right back at me. I think maybe it's time to get someone else involved. It's obvious this isn't going to stop until I do something. I'm just not sure what that is yet. I'll let you know when I figure things out. For those who couldn't make it out. And then he posts a picture of the peephole with the face in it.
Yeah, I looked at that today, and he shows the picture, and then it's like an animation.
Drew it on.
He drew it on, and the drawing has nothing to do with like the picture. Like it looks like I could have just took a picture of a wall and just drew. Look, there's dear David.
Well, he is a cartoonist, so.
Yep.
October 26, 2017. Sorry for the radio silence the past couple weeks. Fred. First, I had a friend come over to do some cleansing stuff. She did the whole apartment and the hallway. A lot of self-proclaimed professional mediums have reached out, plus about a dozen, quote, ghost hunter shows. I've declined them all because I didn't want strangers in my house sensationalizing what's going on. I as if he's not sensational. So instead, I had a friend come over and cleanse this place, and for about a week or so, it seemed like it worked. Things appeared to go back to normal. The cats weren't gathering at the door anymore. I stopped having dreams. It was starting to seem like this was over. Then, one morning last week, I was walking to work and passed the shuttered warehouse, as usual. This time, all the metal doors were wide open, sunlight pouring in. The warehouse was still mostly empty, except for one thing. There was a hearse parked near the back wall, and he has a picture of it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Kind of weird. The warehouse has been closed for over 2 months. I have no idea why it was open that day. Nobody was around. It was weird, but I try not to think about it. It's not all that strange to see a hearse, I guess. Like, they have to park somewhere. I tried to put it out of my mind, and the next several days were uneventful. But something else happened last night, and it was around 11 or so, and I was watching TV on the couch. I went into the dining room to get a drink from the fridge, and noticed both the cats sitting by the far window, staring up at it. The window looks out onto the roof of the business next door. I glanced out the window, but didn't see anything. I figured that maybe there was a mouse in the wall or something. I shrugged and grabbed a beer from the fridge. As I went into the kitchen to get the bottle opener, I noticed something. There's a window in the kitchen, which looks out onto the same roof, and someone was standing on the roof, staring at me. I immediately ducked down. I reached up and flicked off the light switch. I peered over the window, but still couldn't see much. My phone was in my pocket, so I grabbed it and took a photo. It was blurry and dark, but I swear someone was out there. So he,
Took his phone out again.
yeah, so he attached that picture.
He's always done that.
I tried to take a better photo, but the figure had disappeared. So there's 2 pictures. I closed all the blinds and made sure the door was locked, and then drank 5 more beers until I was too drunk to be scared. But now I feel like I'm back at square one. I'm sure it was him. He's not going away. I don't know what to do. November 6, 2017. It's been about 4 months since the first time I dreamed of David. Thread. This might be long, but stick with me. Last night, I dreamed about him again. It was almost exactly the same as the first time I saw him. In the dream, I saw him in a chair again. I don't have the green chair in my room anymore. This time, it was a recliner I've had for years. He was staring right at me. Just like the first time, again, I felt paralyzed and could barely move. But this time, something was different. I still felt mostly immobile, but I could still squirm just a little bit. I felt more alert. I could move my hands somewhat. David glared at me, and I dreaded what I knew was coming. He was going to get out of the chair and come toward me, like before. I had to do something. I keep my phone next to me on the bed, and I somehow managed to get a hold of it. I thought, if David is going to kill me, maybe I can at least get some evidence on my phone.
He's going to shoot him.
I started snapping pictures in the dark.
See?
Sure enough, he crawled down off the chair and began shuffling toward me. He moved slowly, like it was a struggle for him. I felt terrified, but I kept taking photos. David limped closer toward me, never taking his eyes off me. Soon, I was face to face with him. He started muttering something, too quiet for me to understand. I watched as his eyes rolled back in his head until they were all white. I tried to writhe away from him, but I could barely move. I stared in horror as he began crawling up on my bed, still murmuring something. And that's when I woke up. Same as before, broad daylight, no trace of David anywhere. It's almost routine now, but it was a dream after all, so I got up and went to work. And after a while, the stress of the dream melted away. I wasn't even going to write about this, since it really wouldn't be new information. But tonight, I noticed something that petrified me. I went into my phone to find a picture from a couple days ago, and saw dozens of pitch black photos in my camera roll, all from last night. It's better to just show you. Turn up your brightness, because they're pretty dark. And then he, without any commentary, posts several pictures, and they're brightened up. The first one is David sitting in a chair at the foot of his bed, David moving closer, and then David right by his bed with his little dented head. This is the one that made my heart drop. Usually I can come up with some excuse for what's happening, but I have no logical explanation for this. So now I'm sitting here on my couch freaking out. I certainly won't be able to sleep. I just felt like I needed to get this out. So that was at the part where I still was with this because the pictures were so grainy that I was like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, like.
This is when I started to know that it's not a psychological problem. This is an actual, like, he went and dug up old Jim Henson character and started making grainy pictures.
Because, like, well, I'll get into it when we get into the end, when we talk about, you know, the specifics of why and how and if with all this, but I have theories, but I'll, as always, share this with you.
I just want to make it known that this is where, as soon as I saw this picture, that's when I was like, you know what, this is not, I mean, he might have, not might, he does have psychological problems, and, I mean, a lot of people do, I do, and so there's nothing against that, but as soon as I saw this picture, you know, he's just, you understand? I mean, just...
Yes, I understand.
You'll know whenever you start seeing the pictures.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
November 17th, 2017. For everyone asking, yes, I'm alive. I've been on the quiet side because there's something I'm trying to investigate and I'm not sure how to yet. I'd rather not tweet unless I have something substantial to share. Thread. It's also sort of hard to explain the logistics of what I'm trying to find out, but I'll do my best. Basically, there's a part of my apartment I'm just now learning about. At least, that's what I think. And he attaches a picture of a layout of his apartment. And he says, to refresh your memory, I live in a duplex. I used to live on the first floor, and now I live on the second floor. It's a long, boxy building that looks like this. And the picture shows a big triangular box, and it says, my old apartment, and there's a dotted line that divides the box, and on top it says, my new apartment. On top of the new apartment, he draws a little arrow that says, roof I don't have access to. And then there's a small square box next to this big rectangular box that says business next door. And on top of the business, there's a little arrow pointing where it says roof, where I think I saw David.
You'll see it on the Facebook.
And then he says, the other week I was tweeting the most recent update from the living room couch. About 30 seconds after I said the last tweet, I heard a thump directly above my head, as if someone above me had dropped something on the floor, which is impossible since I'm in the top apartment. There's also no way to access the roof. There aren't any ladders on the outside of the building. The only way you get on the roof is through a skylight in the hallway. There are no trees in the immediate vicinity either. It definitely wasn't pipes either. It was distinctly the sound of something falling to the floor. My building is old and makes a lot of noises, but this was a new sound, and it startled me. So I'm thinking, is there some secret crawl space in my home? I look all over my apartment, but I can't figure it out. So I go into the hallway, and that's when something dawns on me. There's no real way to ease into this, so I'll just say it. There's a mysterious hatch in my hallway. I've always known about it, but I just assumed it opened directly to the roof. And he attaches a picture of the hatch. It's really high above the stairs, so I always figured it was just impossible to access without some sort of fancy professional ladder. I took this video so you can see how high it is, so he shows a video of how high the hatch is compared to his stairs. I see that hatch every morning when I leave for work and think nothing of it, but this time something dawned on me. It can't lead to the roof because it's actually below the roof. I'm about to spring some simple math on you, so I apologize in advance. And he says, first the skylight is flat with the roof. I checked Google Earth to make sure. The hatch is about 3 feet below the skylight, meaning there's about 3 feet of empty space between the two openings. And you'll see the picture that he draws to account this.
Yeah, we'll just create just a Facebook, what's it called?
Album.
Yeah, album, and just
for
post
this.
everything on that. Yeah.
I think maybe the hatch leads to a short ladder going to the roof. But even if that's the case, the hatch is level with all the ceilings in my apartment. That means there's 3 feet of empty space all over my apartment. I was ready to explain this away for a few reasons. One, it might just be some sort of insulated space that all residential buildings have. I'm not an architect, so what do I know? It didn't seem relevant enough at the time, so I decided I wasn't going to mention it here. But over the past week and a half, I've been hearing more things above me. A few days after the first sound, I heard a similar thump while I was in the kitchen. Then, last night, I heard something small clink to the floor and roll about 6 feet before stopping. Something is going on up there. Maybe it's a raccoon, but maybe it's not. I also can't get over the fact that the hatch is in such a weird, inaccessible place over the stairs. I need to investigate. I'm just not sure how right now. I guess I'll try to buy a long pole off Amazon to see if the hatch even moves. I might have to buy a construction ladder. At any rate, that's why I've been MIA for a minute.
Amazon promotion.
I'll keep you posted when I figure out how to get up there. And he posts a picture that he's bought the pole, and that's where he leaves off with that thread. Tuesday, November 28th, 2017. A lot has happened in the last week, but I was away for Thanksgiving, so I'm just now able to write it all down. Thread. The noises from the ceiling haven't let up, but the pole I ordered didn't arrive before I had to leave for the holiday, so I didn't actually get it until late Friday night. I planned to investigate the next morning and went to bed. I'd barely fallen asleep when I woke up to an incredibly loud crash above me. It sounded like someone had dropped a bowling ball. I bolted upright in bed and immediately felt strange. There was a weird energy all around me. I can't explain it. After about a minute, I heard another crash. I barely thought about grabbing my shoes and booking it. Briefly thought about that. But that would mean passing under the hatch, and that seemed like a bad idea. So instead, I just listened and waited, though I'm not sure for what. The crash happened again, and then again, probably 15 times in a row, followed by a long silence. Then I heard a smaller, creaky sound from the hallway. In my mind, I registered it as a footstep, but it really could have been anything. I stayed still, but there were no more sounds. After that, I lay back down, still tense and nervous, but I must have fallen asleep at some point, because I woke up the next morning, and everything seemed normal again. I got dressed and left to go get a bagel, same as every Saturday. As I made my way down the stairs, something crunched under my feet. I looked down and noticed a pile of debris on the stairs, directly under the hatch, and he posts a picture to show the debris. It looked like dirt, but I couldn't tell for certain. It could have been old plaster or something. I glanced up at the hatch and noticed something else peculiar. The edge of something was caught in it, barely poking out. It's hard to see it because it's so far up, but I took a photo. At that point, bagels were the last thing on my mind. I went back upstairs and grabbed the pole. I set my camera on the coat wardrobe at the top of the stairs and hit record, just to make sure it would be caught on video if a demon burst out of the hatch. And he attaches a video of himself poking the hatch with his little pole.
Yeah, they'll see it on Facebook.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of playing it. But basically what happens is he pokes it and something falls down out of it. And he says, I jumped out of the way and practically fell down the stairs trying to dodge whatever it was that fell. At first I thought it was a dead squirrel, which would honestly explain a lot. It hit the steps and bounced down to the first floor. I went upstairs to get my phone and collapsed the pole since it's so long and unwieldy, then went back downstairs to investigate the object that fell. At first I wasn't even sure what it was. It was a dingy, faded black. I picked it up and realized what it was. A small leather shoe. And he attached a picture. I hustled back upstairs and texted my landlord. I told him I thought there was something in the crawl space and asked if he could investigate. He said he'd come by with a ladder and check it out. A few hours later, my landlord was on a ladder, shining a flashlight into the crawl space. I stared up at him, half expecting something to grab him and yank him into the darkness. He angled his flashlight all around and finally saying, "There's nothing up here." But then he was like, "Oh wait." I watched as he reached up into the emptiness with his free arm, and when he pulled it back, he had something small and round in his hand. He climbed down the ladder and handed it to me. Again, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. It was smooth and shiny, and at first I thought it was an old piece of candy, but it was cold and too heavy to be candy. After a second, I realized it was a marble. It was so worn that it hadn't registered as a marble at first. Its shape was also sort of weird, with a little bump on one end. My landlord seemed unbothered for the most part. Okay, dude. And he told me to call him if I heard anything else. I went inside and headed to my office to see if I could figure anything out about this marble that somehow made its way into my ceiling. I had nothing to go on, and in short, I really didn't learn much. But I did figure out the bump on the marble, I think. Apparently in the early 1900s, they made marbles by hand and cut them with big metal scissors, which would mean the marble is probably really old. Anyway, now I have a decrepit old shoe and a marble sitting on my dresser. I guess this is the new normal.
Alright, so here's my theory behind this one. So, Dear David is up in his attic, and he dropped his marble, and he took off running after this marble. And before he could get to it, his foot got stuck in the little hatch, and his shoe came off, and he fell down, and that's how his shoe became up there.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. See, the thing is, these tweets are so realistic, and
I love it. Yeah.
like we said, is like the fact of like his landlord, you know, calling his landlord to look, and
what we should do
what
is
his
call his landlord
said.
up and be like, "Hey, did
this really happen?" Yeah. I don't know. I mean, so part of me is just like,
I keep
It
trying to
could
look
be.
at the pictures and seeing whether, I don't know.
But the thing is, it's like, if more people like believe, like, sure, there's people on Twitter that believe this, but like with the picture, if that picture of Dear David that he posted, if that was real and like confirmed, that would be huge news. That's like that would be a huge like breakthrough in the paranormal world. Would you not think? Like, if they could confirm that it was real, like, sure, there's other pictures that depict ghosts or whatever, but my thinking is, like, if this were for sure, like, if this were a real thing, would they not make more of a big deal about this, like, on the news outlets?
Didn't the posts earlier say something about people wanted to have him on his show or on the news or something like that, and he declined it because he didn't want
Ghost hunter shows, but I mean, like, bigger news. Like, I know that there was, a long time ago, there was this one video that someone had captured of Michael Jackson's mansion, like, shortly after he died, and there was, like, a video of a supposed apparition clearly, like, walking down the hallway, and, like, of course, a lot of people thought that was the ghost of Michael Jackson, and it was, like, big news for a week.
I saw a video where a car was driving down the road and a ghost walked across there, and then it scares me because a witch
that
appears.
one. I thought you meant the one where the guy in the motorcycle gets hit and he ends up dying, and then you can see like an apparition kind of thing above the body of the man that died on the motorcycle, and people say that that's like his soul coming out of it. I don't know. My point is, like, if this were legit, why would bigger outlets not be?
Because it's not legit.
Well,
I mean, it's a good story. They should actually put it on the news just because it's a good story. I commend Adam for... I mean, I love it. I'm not into paranormal, like, as in believing. I'm into it as in I like to debunk it. But this is a great story. I mean, I love it.
So here we are, December 12th, 2017. Sorry for the long break. I haven't been feeling great the past couple weeks and haven't had time to update thread. There also wasn't much to say for the most part. I wasn't sleeping well and I was having weird dreams, but they were vague and hard to describe. I'm sleepy all day long, and I've been getting sudden bouts of dizziness. I chalked it up to always having earbuds crammed in and made a mental note to get my ears checked. Other than that, things were pretty quiet. I sort of fooled myself into thinking that finding those items in the attic somehow ended all this. Not that that would make much sense. But last week, something started to happen. Late on Wednesday, I woke up with a start and felt something strange, like something had just been watching me. I turned on the light, but I was alone. Still, there was this tangible feeling of badness. Everything felt wrong, sort of like when you have the flu and you wake up at night and can't really tell where you are for a minute. It was a feeling I'm used to. It always accompanies David. People tweeted me a lot saying he might just need help, but I'm certain that's not the case. Every time he shows up, I feel a palpable sense of malice. That's just what I felt that night. Malice. Dread. But still, I was alone, and I was so tired, I wound up just going back to sleep. I've been so exhausted recently I can barely function. The next night, the same thing happened. I woke up suddenly, feeling like I just missed seeing something, like a candle had just gone out and I could still smell it. I thought about using the pet cam from the living room to monitor my bedroom while I slept, but the cord was too short to get the camera high enough to see the entire room, so I improvised. I downloaded an app that takes a photo every 60 seconds and set my phone on top of a bookcase. It's almost 7 feet tall, so it had a pretty good view of my bed and the surrounding room. Then I went to sleep. Okay, so like what I'm thinking right now at this point, it sounds like Paranormal Activity. Like, you know how in the movies they're like, all right, we'll get a video camera and we'll tape ourselves sleeping at night, and us in the audience are like, don't do that, you'll see something scary. And like, that's what I feel like the audience is like saying to him, and maybe that's kind of where the idea came from.
This thing right here, the 60-second, every 60 seconds, the reason that I'm pushing more towards this is fake is because why didn't he just record the whole night? I mean, it's not that expensive to get one of those night vision cameras. One of my friends bought one for outside because people were stealing stuff off. Or
even
porch.
like a computer. Like you can get like a cam or a webcam on your computer and hit record, I think.
Well, I didn't know if the light would bother him I am. I like to sleep when it's, no light in the room, complete dark.
Yeah.
And so, but it does look like there are lights on. You see on the far left of the picture, if you're following along with us.
But
if
maybe
you're
it
following along in the
flashes.
story with us,
Yeah.
the pictures, it's showing in the left-hand corner of maybe a
We're
lamp
not
or
at the
something like
pictures
that.
yet, though.
Well, yeah. Sorry. My bad. I'm jumping
All right.
ahead.
So, he has his camera. So he says, just like before, I jolted awake hours later feeling the same unease. I turned on the light and hurried out of bed to get my phone from the bookcase. There were probably 350 photos to scroll through. Alright. The vast majority of them were me sleeping in an empty room. It's sort of dark, but you can see me sleeping. I'd left a couple of more of night lights on in case anything showed up. But for the first 100 or so, the photos were just me in an empty room. So
So
in
it's a
the first
nightlight.
picture, yeah, it's just Adam sleeping. Then suddenly he was there, standing on the chair at the foot of the bed, staring at me. And so there's a picture of David standing on something at the foot of his bed, staring at him sleeping. In the next photo, just a minute later, he seems to be staring straight up at the ceiling, just staring. In the photo, he's doing that. Then he appears to collapse on the chair. The next dozen photos are all the same. He's completely lifeless. At first I thought he was dead, which obviously doesn't make sense. I looked over the chair, half expecting him to still be there, but it was still empty. So in this photo, David's like collapsed, face down on this chair.
See, I don't see. I got turned all the way up, the brightness on this thing. I see him collapsed in the chair on this one.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
second
we're not
one-
there yet at that one you're looking at. But then, in the next photo, he's gone. The room is totally empty again. He's gone in the next several photos too, so I figured maybe that was it. But I kept swiping through the photo. About 15 photos later, he was back, standing next to the bed. It was just like the last time I saw him. That's when my heart started to race. I didn't want to look at the rest of the photos, but I knew I had to. I swiped to the next photo and my heart sank in my stomach. He was on the bed, inches from me, staring down at me, sleeping. And he's doing that in the picture. The next one was worse. In the next photo, he's staring right at the camera. After that, there's seemingly nothing. He disappears again, and the rest of the scroll is just me alone in my room again. That's it until the last photo. Here's the final photo on the scroll. And this photo appears to be part of David's head, and then you can see some stringy hair and like a deformed ear, like
Yeah.
elf-looking ear.
This one killed me. This is the one
This
that got
one's
me
so
laughing
creepy.
so hard. Did you show
And
me
he
this when I
says-
started laughing?
Let me just finish these last two tweets. He
Okay.
says, I'm at a loss for words, that malformed ear, that stringy hair. I didn't even know what to think. I looked all over my room, but I couldn't find anything. And honestly, I've been so exhausted, I didn't know how to process it. Even now, all I want to do is just go to sleep.
This picture, I swear. Like, when I first saw it, I wanted to say,
Gollum, Gollum.
So, I told you before, there was a point in all this Twitterness that I kind of lost my faith, and it was at this point.
yeah.
And it's because the pictures, you'll see them if you look, but it looks like a doll. I mean, it looks straight up like a doll. And to me, this was the thing. Yes, it looked like a doll. Yes, I was like, oh my gosh, this looks so fake. And then in my head, I'm also thinking, but why would he post something that obviously looks so fake? Do you know what I mean? Like, why?
Well, the first picture that he said, all right, I drew a picture of it. He didn't add any stringy hair or anything like that. All the pictures, everything before that.
But it's
some
like-
of them you could tell that he had stringy hair, but
But it's like if this is a hoax and he is truly trying to, fool people, why would you post pictures of something that looks so fake? Like, obviously this looks fake. Everybody on the comments, like, I remember I follow this in real time, so like I watched the comments roll in and people were like, this is fake. Like, what are you talking about? This is a doll. And like, so I'm wondering, like, I don't know, that really threw me off because I'm like, if he really was faking this, why would he? Surely he could go to greater extents to make this look a little more real. Unless it is real.
it's not real.
I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that he's done all of these elaborate things. And if he has, up to this point, done all of these things to fool us, he's done some pretty impressive work. And this, like, he's had pictures of David before, but number one, these pictures are very clear. And number two, they're so clear and they're creepy. But the only down thing is they look very, very fake. And I'm thinking, why would you come this far just to show some doll?
He messed up. Usually the pictures that he shows are grainy.
Yeah.
And distance is the key. Like, it makes you wonder. But as soon as he showed this picture, it kind of gave it away.
But he seems like a pretty smart guy. Like, why?
Everybody makes mistakes.
But this is a huge one to make.
Yes.
Like, if you wanted to keep this going, like, you could have made this look a little more real. Like, even just a little more real.
I actually think...
It straight up looks like a doll.
I think he did a pretty decent job at making this. If I didn't think that it was a hoax, I mean, there are still people out there who do believe after this point
I know
that it is still real.
But to me, I'm looking at him again and I'm like, it just looks like CGI. Or it looks like it's
not
a doll.
CGI.
Or it looks like he's got a doll. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like either somebody made him or... he is an artist. He is creative, so...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if he's so creative, why could he not have... done a better job with this?
All right, well, just because you're creative, he's artistic in drawing, like, cartoon characters.
Someone tweeted a picture of their baby doll head with a digit head and said, "David, is that you?" Like, some of these tweets are like, so this is false, ? Like, all of them are like, why would you...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Everyone's like, fake. See?
11,000, yeah.
Everyone started saying fake.
11,000 people talking about this. Just this video, or this picture.
Because they're all like, so I guess this is it, huh? I mean, some people are saying I'm flipping out, but most of them are saying this is...
A lot of them still say that they're scared for
But
him.
most of them are calling this fake.
Yes, obviously.
So, I don't know.
Does he keep posting after this? Not as in, like, how long between this and the next post?
His next post is January 2nd. And this is where I kind of thought that...
Where was this one at? I forgot.
That was December 14th or something, 17th. One of those two.
Okay, so just a couple weeks after.
So this is a good point. I thought that maybe we could call this the halfway mark officially. And the next episode that we'll release after this in like a couple days, I figured we could keep talking about this, but we'll break this up into segments.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can release these 2 episodes separately.
Mm-hmm. Unless it becomes
just so
3.
we're not having them listen to a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, I doubt it'll become 3.
Yeah. So I figure we'll say goodbye to you guys for now, and you can look forward to part 2 of Dear David coming in a couple days after this episode is released. Presumably this will be released tonight, which is Sunday, April 22nd. So probably episode, the next part of this, April 23rd, 24th, something like that. But thank you guys for listening. Please be sure to tune in. The next episode, we're going to be finishing up the rest of these tweets by Adam Ellis, and we will
discuss it.
We'll discuss it about what I think is going down, what you think is going down, and ultimately leave it up to you guys. Is this real? Is this fake? And where Adam Ellis is currently with this whole sensation.
And let us know, comment on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up Conspired. I think we're the only one out there. So, come look at the pictures. I'll post up to where we are, and then we'll just...
and please hit
add
subscribe so you'll know when our episodes are going to be released. They'll pop right up if you subscribe, and I think it'll even give you a little alert in your listening app. So,
yeah. Friend us on Facebook.
We're friendly people.
Yeah, I like to think so.
All right, well, thank you guys for listening. Please turn in a couple days to hear the second part of the Dear David phenomenon.
Yes. All right.
Thanks for listening.